Here we are. Episode whatever of this show.
Five.
Let's go. We're calling it Alex Sulkin's
Darlings. Yeah, you set up this episode. This was your idea, and I think it's a little bit of a concept.
Right. So, I think 3 weeks ago now, probably several years ago by the time this episode comes out, but Alex Sulkin, current executive producer and guy who runs Family Guy, did an AMA on the Family Guy subreddit. And what really struck me was, I think in the second episode of the show or whatever, we talked about how modern day Family Guy just reeks of insecurity. It's just like dripping from it. And I totally got that from reading the AMA. At more than one point, kind of completely unprompted. We can even put up the comments here if I can send you the screenshots. He just goes, I defy you to watch this episode and say, the show is not as good as it used to be.
Someone will say,
I'm so proud of this.
Yeah, I love the early stuff. What are some of your favorite moments? And Alex goes, I defy you to not like these new episodes. And it's like, well, he's saying he wants to know what your nostalgic memories are, not like...
So those two episodes, so he specifically highlighted Stewie's First Word, which was the season 19 premiere, and The Fat Man Always Rings Twice, which is from the next season 20. So two of the more newer episodes, but still at this point, like 5 years ago. So those are the episodes we watched, and I'll be honest, because so much of the insecurity and the coping mechanism of it just really turns me off, I went into it not in a good mood. I went into it wanting to hate them. I didn't love them. I'll just say that. I didn't despise them, but I did come away with it with I think a lot of thoughts about why the show is the way it is and why, if there is a perceived drop in quality, where that comes from.
Yeah.
Where do you think about these two episodes, just top level?
I think it's interesting that these are episodes that Sulkin highlighted himself because the episode Stewie's First Word, let's talk about that one first.
Yes,
I feel like it is both a great example of modern Family Guy in a lot of ways for things that can be really cool with what they're able to do with this show, and also the flaws. And I think what they might think of as the flavor of new Family Guy that they enjoy or what they're going for, and it's like when artists change as they get older, like a musician puts out a folk album and you don't adapt to it. This is kind of like, it's almost like when someone puts out an album later in life that's like all acoustic folk songs, and them from being butt rockers or whatever.
Right.
So it does feel like that a little bit. And Stewie's First Word, I think, is the other episode is The Fat Man Always Rings Twice, which is just like, it's all
a concept episode.
Yeah. Which is fine. I don't think it's amazing. I had less to say or think about that episode than Stewie's First Word, because that's just a departure from the entire concept of the show.
Right. Which is, it's also, I have stuff to say about that one specific to the concept they do, and then also the ways that the fans have kind of reacted to it. But to approach Stewie's First Word initially, it's interesting to me because the logline of the episode is Stewie swears in church, and it's the first time the rest of the family understands him. So they're saying, oh, this is the first time he speaks. And I think that's an interesting concept for an episode. They do pay a little bit of lip service, him and Brian, about wait, you've been speaking for a long time. Why is this the first time they understand you? And then they kind of do a thing where Stewie says, oh, maybe it's because I was really emotional and that's why, and he tries and it doesn't work. I'm glad they didn't make that a full subplot, because I think explaining one of the core tenets of the show is not... It's like when Star Wars did midichlorians to talk about who is good or bad at the Force. I don't care. I'm accepting that if this is 1999 and this is still a big debate over who understands the baby, who doesn't, sure, but now everyone accepts it. This is just part of the show.
I mean, there's scenes where they will and there's scenes where they won't, but it doesn't have to follow through on it.
Right, it's fine. They've expanded. I think now Chris is canonically, he understands Stewie all the time. Brian obviously was always able to understand him, and then people outside of the main family can understand Stewie. Fine, it's logic, and now they are attempting to explain it a tiny bit, but I don't care. Like, I don't need it. I'm willing to live in this world.
The episode's about Stewie's first word. They have to say something about that.
They have to say something, and so it's kind of a throwaway line, but mostly it's about Lois being mad that mommies are mad at her because her baby swore. But what I thought was interesting, looking at it from just a jokes perspective, right? Because I think that's what you should analyze Family Guy from. Like, so often reviewers talk about how difficult it is to analyze Family Guy because there's no story. That's not the point of it. You can just be like, this joke worked, this joke didn't. It's like a sketch show in that way. But one thing I thought was interesting was they have, more than once, they do this thing. They have two different fourth wall breaks that they do repeatedly in this episode where they acknowledge every time they do a cliched joke that it's like kind of hacky. And the first one is when they like do a set change. Do you notice that? Where Peter says like some pun about like it fell flat, and then they do a thing where they have like stagehands, the family acts, and they change the set.
Yeah.
But then there's another thing they do where
with the principal.
They have with the principal, but with the principal, and so it cuts to Principal. I don't even remember his name. Principal Shepherd, and they go because they want to masturbate. Like they're poking fun at it. But then they cut back to the family, and Peter goes, "I don't know what that was," which is weird to me because you had the same exact type of joke earlier in the episode where you're lampshading that this is a hacky joke and this is all a TV show. But the second time you do it, you were poking fun at the fact that you're poking fun at it, but then they do it again for both, you know?
Yeah.
They do both of those things more than once, and only one of them, it's almost like they're not fully acknowledging the fact that at how meta but also like self-critical and self-loathing it is in a weird way.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I gotta be honest. The first time when Lois is like upset because Stewie cursed and she realized it's her, so she wants to go to a retreat to relax. That's kind of like the A plot. And she's like, oh, well, you know, I can't leave because I have to check your internet searches and watch you guys and nag you all day. And then Peter and Chris go, yeah, no, you should go. And then it cuts to the principal, who closes a book that says something. I have it here. I forget what it says. Sorry, I just burped, really gross. Comedic Turns Illustrated. Yes. And he goes, it's because they want to masturbate.
Yeah.
I laughed out loud, though. Like, I
think
know
that's
it's
funny.
weird.
No, I like that as a joke. I do like that.
That's the thing, though. It's like, they're, like, mad at themselves. It's like when a comic is bombing on, or keeps saying that they're bombing on stage, but they're not. You're not bombing. And now you are, because you said that you were, but you were doing fine.
And it's because you're insecure.
Yes.
And you just reek of insecurity. And so the end of the episode, where it is that Stewie says mommy as a second word, and then Brian goes, oh, so I guess that means you don't want to kill her, you love her. And again, like, I don't think they need to hang a lampshade on it, because whatever, like, we've long moved past Stewie wants to kill Lois, like, who gives a shit? But instead they do this, and then Stewie's response is just to speak in weird like beat to jazz poetry, and then Chris and Peter come out and do the same thing, and it makes no sense. It's connected to nothing. And then Peter goes, we don't know how to end this episodes anymore, we just do nonsense. Which, fine, whatever. Again, you're just insecure, you're just gonna like say that. But it's crazy for Alex Sulkin to highlight this as an episode of how the show is still good, when it literally ends with the writers admitting they don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah That is like, okay, my thesis on this episode, it's a good time to say it, is that the episode is very postmodern, where it's the initial plot with Peter is Peter begets the Lord in service of a magic 8-ball.
Yeah.
And it's like he finds a new god in like the randomness of the answers from the magic 8-ball, and then the A-plot is this sort of Lois being shunned by her waspy suburban community because of a perceived social faux pas that she, you know, it's like it's like these commentaries on both like God and then like the way that like not really, but it sort of lightly is. Like it's like Peter like initially, and then it kind of goes away, the Peter plot, but it's like, you know, Peter like leaves God for this random machine or this random like idol, and then Lois is like it's almost like Lois's plot almost feels like some sort of like Pynchon novel. It's like this weird like, you know, Run Rabbit Run, like John Updike sort of like the banal
like a suburban satire.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
Stewie's first word was a curse word, and like I don't know, did you go to church growing up?
No.
I went to church growing up. I was raised Catholic, and like a baby crying in church, like old people get madder at babies crying or talking in church than they do at like cell phones. Like their cell phones go off, and it's like, this is the person who was, if you believe in God, this baby was closer to God like 6 years ago than you are going to be when you die in 10 years, you know? Like this is like what it's about. Like that's why you need old people and kids at weddings. You need everyone meshing together, and like all the like the death and the birth and so this like idea that like American society has detached itself from like the concept of like, it's a miracle the baby has learned speech. I know I'm getting too deep. I always do.
No, but go.
But and then it's this banal like Joe's wife Bonnie's like, oh, Lois, you and Stewie can't come to the birthday party because Stewie, you're obviously he's a bad influence on whatever, and it's just like so odd. And basically, my thought is that it's this entrapment that we all feel, where we are trapped in the late capitalism of being America and consumption, and the characters are trapped in the show, and the writers are trapped in the writing room writing a show. And every joke and it's this 3-person Mexican standoff of either the jokes on the characters, the jokes on us, or the jokes on the writers. And it's this rotating carousel of who the joke is going to be on, because we're all trapped in this prison of late capitalist, like postmodernist, empty, ironic nothingness. And so all we can do, it's like no exit. Hell is other people. Yeah. The 3 people are me, Peter, and Alex Sulkin, all looking at each other, being in hell together, wandering around. And it's basically like what does Lois do? She's rejected by the community, so she goes and purchases a retreat. Purchase capital.
Even before she tries to go to the grocery store and they reject her. Consumerism is rejecting her.
Consumerism will set you free, but to be rejected from this, like she is rejected from her church and her social group, and so what does she do? She goes through, it's like Mad Men a little bit too. It's like advertising will set you free. Media will enrich you. These things that can be sold to you. The thing you're watching right now, isn't this ironic and stupid? Aren't you dumb for watching Family Guy? Aren't we dumb for writing Family Guy? Aren't these characters dumb for being in Family Guy? And it's like, oh my God, it's almost like the most beautiful episode of Family Guy I've ever seen, because it's such a testament to both the decline of American culture, the decline of our society and our media and our capacity to create great art. It's so detached, so weird, and nothing I've seen from Family Guy. It's also so funny. The Caillou shit, where Stewie is watching Caillou and they call Caillou's dad like a beta dad.
A beta cuck, yeah.
Yeah, and like Peter hangs out with them, and it's so like, I loved it, but also it's like, this is so weird and like interesting.
And you know what? Something I was thinking of along those lines is that I think a thing that people don't necessarily realize has always been true from Family Guy at the start is that it's fundamentally contemptuous. It hates everything. And in the 90s, when it was run by a group of 20-year-olds, they were contemptuous of what came before them. So they would reference the 70s and stuff, but the joke was on older people. The joke was on contemporary society. And I think you're more willing to take that from a younger person, because the idea is you're railing against the establishment. And that's always more acceptable because you're not part of that, and hopefully that means you can change. But now what they're railing against is younger people, like the Instacart runner where they're like, oh, the kids are on their phones and they don't care, and that when the Instacart person comes to their door, he's like clearly like Gen Z coded, wearing a beanie and on his phone, and he slams the door in his face. But the idea that like, oh, you're making fun of these people that don't care. Family Guy, you don't care. You've never cared. But now that you're older, and you're part of the establishment, it's harder to take that seriously and harder to respect it because you're the ones that could have brought about change, but you just became the thing that everyone hated about this in the first place. It's like there's a Seinfeld joke about like recently, like from a recent special of his, where he goes, I don't want to change, I don't want to learn, I don't want to grow new experiences, whatever. And on one level, you're like, I can identify that. That's like an aspect of humanity that I can like empathize with. But on the other, I can't divorce that from the context that is that every single bad thing about our world is because like white 70-year-old millionaires refuse to learn, That's why everything is bad. And so you just expounding that is like, isn't this the case for everyone? It's like, yeah, but you shouldn't feel that. The fact that you still feel that, Family Guy, it's like you've internalized this hatred and it's never gone away. You've never learned from it. You never tried to be better. And now this is what we have, It's such a, yeah, you're right. It's such an example of Gen X politics turning inwards and the edginess now just being like an old man, like throwing eggs at children.
Yeah. It's so much also like, nobody even cares about the stuff I care about, Like, we're going to do a whole episode about the noir movies from the 30s and the 40s, and that's what this episode's going to be about, because this is what we like. It's about us, but we hate ourselves, and we hate you. Then why are we making art? What are we doing? Like, why? If you hate it... a comic said that to me. He was like, because I go back and forth with stand-up where it's almost like sometimes I hate everyone, sometimes I think it's beautiful. I'm sure we all go through that.
Yeah, 100%.
And I was like, I just sometimes, being like stupid and annoying. And he was like, man, like if you hate it so much, you should just not do it. But if you like it, then you should do it. And I said, I know, I get mad because I care about it. Like, that's where the anger comes from. And the change that I want to see in the world, I mean, this is a cliche on a poster in a classroom somewhere, but be the change you want to see. Don't just degrade yourself into the thing. And this episode, Stewie's first words, it has some spark and some juice. They do a cutaway where it's the Pilgrims going to Boston. And it's this interesting, like, funny thing where a bird's like, I'm going to lead you to Boston. Oh, can we be, like, racist and annoying? Like, okay, I thought that was funny.
And there's, like, bits there that are identifiably Family Guy that are well constructed. Like, the thing where they go, can we be the reason 9/11 happened? And then can our own 9/11 be way tamer, but then we take it as seriously? Like, that's actually edgy and funny.
Yeah.
But... in the rest of the show, it's not, but they clearly think that they're still at the cutting edge. And you're like, no, dude. You don't get to feel that when you have one good, cool, like, snarky joke.
On that joke, do you think that Seth has feelings about that because he almost died?
He almost died in 9/11? Well, something I learned about in the Alex Sulkin AMA is that Seth no longer writes for the show, but what he says still goes. Is there was a character voiced by Chris Parnell who was like a nemesis for Stewie in his preschool called Doug. And he was in the show for, I think, 2 or 3 seasons, and then he's killed off screen at the end of one episode. And Alex Sulkin goes, yeah, all of us in the writer's room loved him, but Seth hated him, so we had to get rid of him. Which is interesting, because if everyone there, even the guy running the show, really enjoys a character or a new thing, if Seth says no, I guess you still have to listen to him.
Yeah.
And so he clearly still has some kind of influence.
Sure.
And maybe it's just in the negative sense. If he like doesn't like something, they say no.
When did what do you remember like when you learned about cursing? Because like I have like a very distinct memory of my mom driving. I remember it because I was sitting in the back seat and she had a flip phone, and she said like fuck. And I remember when she got off the phone, I said, "What's fuck?" And she had to like that's not a word we say, but it's a word. It's like a bad word and like all this stuff. And I don't know. Do you like just? I thought that.
Well, I remember in kindergarten in like the first grade, our teachers would they would get mad at us if we said stupid. You know, like you have to go like that was what I thought the S word was. And so, and I also learned pretty quickly that if adults told you not to say something, you never say it. And so I never said it in front of my parents. My brother was a lot like more cavalier about it and would sometimes get in trouble, but my parents didn't really care, but I hid it from them well enough that I remember like there was like a weird thing where like in high school my dad was like someone got in trouble for swearing, and I was like, well, he's like a fucking, he's 14, like he swears, and he's like, well, you don't swear, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like 16 years old, of course I swear, and he's like, not in front of me, and I'm like, yeah, I don't do anything in front of you. You don't know who I am.
Exactly.
I don't do that in front of you. Why would I do that?
My mom recently, we were like seeing some old relatives, and she was like, oh, well, I mean, James just isn't very political. And then we were like driving home. I was like, I'm very political.
Yeah,
I like consume politics daily. I have very strong opinions. Like, it's funny even now. It's like, yeah, I mean, there's just things you just don't. I don't talk about it with you because I don't want to upset you. And I like where our relationship is now. And I don't want to argue about like politics with you all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
No, I have a whole personality. I just also am smart and have a filter.
Yeah.
Like, I have, like, self-awareness and impulse control.
Yeah, John Mulaney said something on a old podcast. He was like, little kids cursing. Like, no one wants to see a little kid curse. It's gross. It's weird. It's like when they flick you off with their little finger and it doesn't go up all the way. It's like, yeah, no, like, it's just unsettling. Like, you don't want to see little kids curse.
So much of, like, parenting is, like, about the aesthetics of having a child. It's like, you want your kid to be perfect, and that includes them not swearing. You don't want to explain what sex is, not because it's, like, bad for them to know, but because you are uncomfortable and you just want to live in this world where it's just sunshine and, like, you throw your kids up in the air and then you put them to bed and it's fine.
Yeah, it's a Coca-Cola ad. It's like this episode. Yeah. It's like Lois is shunned because of her imperfect son because he doesn't get cookies after church, so he curses. Yeah. And everyone's so upset by it, but it's this allure of like this thing that it's like it's not real. It's like, there's like this common phrase online where it's like it takes a village. Like there was this recent tweet, it was like everyone says it takes a village until you find out that your village is like letting your kid watch like AI slop on YouTube. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you do have to at a certain point, like if you leave your kid with your aunt and she puts the iPad in front of him, like you just have to accept that sometimes he's gonna have an iPad. Things exist in the world. I have a few friends who just had their first kid, and they were talking about like childcare because they're both like going back to work soon. And my one friend was saying like, yeah, I mean, my mom lives close by, and I want to give. Like, I want to be able to trust her with our daughter, but I also know that she basically gave me and my sister eating disorders from her comments, and I know that nothing I say will prevent that from changing her mind that that's what she does. So how do I decide between, do I give my newborn daughter an eating disorder, or do I pay thousands of dollars for childcare? Yeah. That is the choice. You just have to decide in what ways can your kid take getting fucked up. Like, in what ways can they take it and figure it out, I guess. But, I don't know, man. It's an interesting episode. I think it talks to a lot of deeper issues, but also, I mean, like I said, there's so much shit in here I thought was so funny. Like, Peter and Chris on the jet skis and they kill a dolphin. And then he's like, and then, Chris goes, no, keep going. And they do it. And then it's just like, something about it was so funny.
That's an example, I think, of Family Guy's late period gratuitousness playing in its favor. Like, they really do this a lot. You see this even on comments online where they say, if this is a modern Family Guy episode, you'd have Peter, like, punch. Because there was an episode recently where Peter, like slams a child's head and like assaults them, and they show it really graphically, and you're like, I don't want to laugh at that, man. But this is an example where you're saying, okay, yeah, the explicitness and the over-the-topness I can appreciate because it's just so out there, it's crazy. But yeah, I honestly, I mean, as we're talking about it, I kind of do see why Sulkin highlighted it, because there's bits in it that are good, and I think the writing staff, they don't know what they are saying. They're making a sketch show and they are proud of certain sketches, and so you're like, well, look at this one, of course this show's so good. These jokes were funny, these like bits and vignettes and pieces were funny, but when they're all put together, they're saying exactly what it is that you were saying about like the no exit Sartre-esque hellscape that is our world is perfectly reflected tonally by them, and they just don't fully understand that is what they're putting out, which is shame, because you can't. It's a shame to see something deeply self-referential while also being painfully unself-aware.
That's all of us, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really is.
Family Guy is all of us.
Yeah, Family Guy is us. So to see it like that, and you go, yeah. I mean, it's like some people never change fundamentally. Sometimes you see a friend and you're like, oh, maybe this guy's different because it's been time and things have happened, and there's just things that are fundamental about that person that have changed. It's like Family Guy. Like, you don't watch a lot of new Family Guy, you come back to it, and it's a reflection of us. So if it is like, you know, self-loathing in this way, it's because I think a lot of us have that self-loathing, and I think it is almost like a positive testament to the writers of the show. In their, you can't really tell what they realize or don't realize, or know or don't know what they're doing, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like awe-inspiring or like shocking to have watched this episode, and it like felt like I like got struck by like lightning to think like, wow, like the show has changed like we've changed, but we've all kind of gotten worse from that time.
Yeah, I think the way it's changed is not radically. It's showing us our flaws in the same way that they are core to us and always have been, you know? I don't think who Family Guy was is any different. It's just that it curdles, you know? When the world doesn't change, but you are still there and you believe in the same things, it's tough to not just get really resentful, which is what you see in so many people who are jaded about politics or culture or something. Like, at a certain point, this is what it is, and you start losing your hope. And that's what Family Guy is. I don't know what they thought the world was going to be, though, but they just got older. They just got older, and I think it's maybe like they thought they were going to be beloved, and they never really were. They're still fighting for an Emmy. They're still mad that they don't have that. They're not embraced.
I mean, it reminds me a lot of the decay in Sopranos later seasons, like the social, like, I always think about this line. I think it's like one of the biggest, like most impactful lines of The Sopranos. It's the first line where he goes, "Sometimes I feel like I got into it after all the good old days."
Yeah, after all the good, yeah. And The Sopranos premiered, I think, like 2 months after Family Guy premiered.
And yeah, I mean, and if you don't end with your cut to black and you just, you know, don't stop, plays into an echo and it goes away. Family Guy goes on forever, and the characters can't decay, even though they do, because they stay the same.
Because they're trapped in time. Yeah, they're animated.
It's hell. It is hell. Watching really Family Guy is watching people trapped in hell. It's 21 seasons later, and Stewie says his first word.
Because love doesn't exist. That's the problem. You know, there's this thing where it was like an argument. It was like a leftist argument about conservatives, and I think it was like a Tumblr post or a tweet. But it was basically like, I don't know how to explain to you that you're supposed to care about other people. Yeah. And that's the reason so much of the world is in like falling apart, and that's the reason Family Guy could never get off the ground, because they were like, well, why are we supposed to care about stuff? Well, that's the only thing that exists. That's the only thing that can provide longevity in any way. And
in their incredible brilliance in the initial parts of the show, in the initial seasons, to look backwards and go, this is our beautiful culture. It's worth remembering. It's worth idolizing. It's worth discussing. Now it's like that laser beam of like picking out James Woods and picking out random celebrities and events from the past can also be turned on us in now in such like a harsh way that it's like, oh, you love like old Hollywood, like before Me Too, when like people are getting like raped and like people are getting like completely sexually exploited, or like, you know, what was the noir era? Like they even acknowledge it in this other episode. We can move on to talking about that, where it's like, like it was the best of times. I mean, segregation still existed. Blah, 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 blah. I heard an interesting argument. It had to do with Israel and Palestine. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but someone's like, oh, well, like Palestine, go be gay in Palestine, you know, like, oh yeah, go try that because there's such. But the argument to counter it that I thought was interesting, it might have been on Chapo Trap House, but it was like, well, Americans went and fought Hitler when there was segregation at home, and like, You know,
Yeah.
there's like, you can do a righteous thing and also have so many negativity and so much negative stuff. And I think, like, even going back to some of our biggest like takeaways from this rewatch podcast, it is kind of like the song of the trivia guy, the guy who feels like he spent his whole life learning about culture, trying to reflect that back into you into some sort of like packaged media product and some sort of narrative. But it gets hollow. It gets sad. An old man at trivia who doesn't know who Beyonce is. This is like a new thing with trivia.
Yes.
Like old men who know so much about geography, world history, movies. But if you ask them and the answer to the movie is Trolls 2, they are like, who the fuck even saw that?
And they get mad, and it's like, well, why do you know about the other? This is a whole thing, and I'll have this argument with older family members too, where they will think you're dumb if you don't know certain things from the past, but they are proud that they don't know about contemporary things. And it's like, you don't get to be anti-ignorance, but only in one direction.
Yep.
You know, the only reason that it is important to know about the past is so that it helps us understand the present and avoid those mistakes in the future. But if you're not actively applying that, if you're just saying, well, my time is the best time, then you're as dumb as the rest of us. You know?
Yeah.
Family Guy, I think, suffers from the same thing. Was when they became the culture, when they became embedded into something, they no longer knew what to talk about. It's in a way, The Sopranos is the best show about the 90s, but the Family Guy is the most representative show about the 90s because it's all of those people and that mindset taken to its logical conclusion where you can just never end.
Yeah.
So we can move on to The Fat Man Always Rings Twice, which is the second episode Sulkin highlighted, which I think makes sense that he highlighted it too, because late period Family Guy, especially within the past 5, 6, 7 years, has really committed to the concept episode, which I'm not personally against. We talked about this previously, but I think it's smart because, you know, I keep saying they're a sketch show, so fucking commit to like a specific concept. You can do sketches there, you know, like it makes more sense and it's easier for you to have ideas. I don't know. I mean, what did you think? Like,
that was fine. It was like a fine episode. It's like that thing, it almost feels a little bit from the And Then There Were Fewer kind of thing where it's like,
yes,
they're trying to do like an interesting, good mystery at the core of a show that's also a sketch show. So they're trying to do both things at the same time.
Right. And I never really, I mean, the mystery, I'm not mad about this because I didn't expect anything from Family Guy in this regard, but like, it wasn't like, the mystery wasn't good, you know? Like, the way that was uncovered wasn't shocking or revelatory in any way that you would get from reading an actual mystery or watching a good film noir. What it did make me think of, though, was, did you ever watch Garfield's Babes and Bullets?
No, I haven't.
So, did you ever watch the Garfield cartoon?
No, I haven't.
You never watched? I was super into Garfield as a kid.
Okay, all right.
Not the comic books, the cartoons.
Yeah, I never. That wasn't in my life. What's Lorenzo Music? He was the voice of Garfield?
He was the voice of Garfield. I think he was on SNL at one point, but he was the voice of Garfield. And this is the same thing. It's Garfield picturing himself. It's Garfield as a film noir detective, and then they do their own little case in it. And I rewatched it for this. It's genuinely an involving mystery, and there's like some actual emotion to it, which is bizarre. And even so, one of the runners in this Family Guy episode is everyone has funny names, right? And some of them are good, some of them are just
Book
stupid.
Pro.
Right, and that is just like, there's no joke there. It's just, oh yeah, Mac is a name, and then MacBook, haha, you know? And an example of what I think is a lot better is in Garfield. His name is Sam Spade. Sam Spade is the character from Maltese Falcon, but Sam Spade is in Spayed because like you spay a cat. To me, that's a better joke than anything in this Family Guy episode, and it's from fucking Garfield. You know, like the same exact thing. And like, guys, there's so much more you could do. And I've seen comments online that's like, oh, it's so cool how even like every thing that they reference in the show comes back to fruition, where, you know, they talk about Peter shitting in the streets, and then that's the reason Stewie broke his ankle or something. And you're like, you guys are so starved for quality writing. That's how actual writing works. Is yes, you write things and they're foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Like, it's a literary device. You're amazed that there was the slightest iota of thought put into a thing that was made for millions of dollars and put on television. We should be demanding thought. The idea that thoughtfulness is like is baffling and like awe-inspiring to you is so sad.
Yeah, well, Family Guy is almost anti-thought now in certain ways.
It's anti-creativity, I think, in a lot of ways.
It's resentful of it. It's like, it is creative inherently. It's a cartoon.
It's resentful of people who try, which is like very fun, very Gen X, very end of history.
Yeah, of course. It's. I don't know. I couldn't help but think of other noirs that were like interesting.
Yeah.
Do you ever play the game L.A. Noire?
I've watched people play it. I'm not a video game, but LA Confidential is what that's based on. You know?
Yeah, it's like like that. Like it kind of like that reminded me of it because it's like L.A. Noire is kind of funny where it's like you have an open LA you can drive around, but you drive like the shittiest cars that can't like jump, and you can't really kill civilians, and you can't pull your gun out. So you're just like aimlessly driving around, and the mysteries are all like half the mysteries in LA Noire are like you get clues and then just random shit happens. It doesn't matter, and by the end of it, it's like you solve the case, detective, and it's like this is actually like sad because this is how it probably went back then.
Yes.
It's like the Mulaney joke. Like, if you robbed a bank and you just weren't there when the cops showed up, you got away with it. And then one of my favorite noirs that I think actually did something, which I would have enjoyed more than this, like, weird, like, old throwback thing they did. I love Under the Silver Lake. I love that movie.
Yeah, same.
And it's like, it takes place in L.A. They do, like, a modern noir.
Contemporary, yeah. It's
completely,
and
it's like...
piece.
And I was thinking things like you see things that are tropes of noir in Under the Silver Lake that you see here that they do jokes on in the Family Guy episode. Like even something as small as like Lois has like the big hat and she can't fit through the door. And then also like the woman, like the blonde that like that he's like pursuing in Under the Silver Lake has the big hat. And it's like, oh, they're like hitting all the beats, but they're also hitting the beats that everyone else has always hit. And like I don't know. I mean, it's just like how much more interesting could this have been if it was like black and white, but it took place in modern day. It didn't take place in like old times or something. Right. I don't know what that.
I mean, the reason they like Family Guy made it a period piece was that they could do their bits about they have a bunch of inflation jokes. It's like who has $3 in this town? I have $2 rent or whatever, and they can do their segregation jokes. They can do their prohibition jokes, which is fine. Whatever. Something interesting about Under the Silver Lake and other kind of neo noirs. Sort of like Inherent Vice, like Pynchon is similar to that. But a thing that I think noirs do really well is the inherent just nothingness and meaninglessness of so much crime is like you just try to figure all this stuff out and maybe something happens, maybe it doesn't, but in the end it doesn't mean anything because shit just happens and, the cynicism that's inherent in noir that came out of World War II and the Depression and how everything felt like it was coming to an end. That's, I think, something that is really, can be emotional in a way and can be dealt with. And it's pretty fundamental to Family Guy's worldview. They could have done a thing where nothing matters and they don't come up with a solution to the case. In the way they kind of ended the Stewie's First Word, where they don't have an ending and it's just fucking jazz, whatever. Like, why not do that for this one? You're still in the noir field, but you're actually playing to your tonal strengths and apparently what you believe in. And it can be almost, rather than having us, try to cosplay as actually smart noir crime writers, just have it be nothing and then leave us with a sense of ennui.
They couldn't do it. They can't do anything, really. They don't make choices in any capacity to that level.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting coming out of this episode is I was like, because it kind of is played straight. Like the characters themselves don't really like make jokes. The jokes are just like the world exists, and I thought that was kind of like a fun, good choice. But what it reminded me so much of, this episode's from 2021, and so much of the things that were happening, and when I noticed that like it's like Peter doesn't like make a joke, and when he does, the one joke he makes is oh, you were in the Nutcracker? That's like what is it about my ex-wife?
My ex-wife, yeah.
And he goes, divorce was new at the time, and I was the first guy to make that joke, that's like a meme now. I see that online all the time. Yeah. But it's dangerously close to being a parody of Naked Gun, which in itself is a parody. Yeah. And because all the characters in Naked Gun, what's the guy from Naked Gun? What's his name?
Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen. He said in an interview that I always think about when you watch Naked Gun, which is like, they told me not to do jokes. You just read it plain, and the joke is inherent. And that's what I think they did well in this, which is funny that at 5 years later, or 4 years later in 2025, Seth McFarlane produces the Naked Gun movie, because
Yeah.
it's like, this is a good episode, and not in that regard, where it's like they do Naked Gun well for old noir, but it should just be like, this is the Naked Gun. This isn't Family Guy. Like if you want to do parody mystery and like do a bunch of jokes in that, like Naked Gun does Family Guy. This is their episode of a Naked Gun thing, and they can't do it that way. But it actually, when you watch that new Naked Gun movie with Liam Neeson, I like that movie. I thought it was good, and it felt like a Family Guy movie. It felt Family Guy-esque.
100%. In the way that it just had digressions and you know.
Yeah, the whole snowman
none
thing.
Of it mattered.
It's
it just doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I thought the movie was great. I really liked it.
Right, and the stuff that I liked about it is that it played kind of like a cartoon, and that anything could happen, you know. And so often it feels like Family Guy. I don't know if it uses its strengths, if it knows what it's good at, and plays to its strengths, you know? Like, it just feels like they're just trying things, which in a way, I guess, could be good if it felt playful or daring, but it just kind of feels tired and desperate. Like, it just is like, well, this is an idea, you know? This is something we could do. So, like, go. It's so much of it is, like, almost the writer's room, like, can we do this? Have we done this already? And then someone says, like, and then you just do it. And that's, I think, the whole thing just feels like sad and like worn down, which is it comes through. Like, as an audience member, I'm like, I don't want to watch this.
And what do you do now? You take Stewie and you make him Rick and Morty? That's not what Stewie's strength. I don't want to see that. Stewie's great in that world. I don't need to see Stewie jumping through in the multiverse and doing all that. I don't need that. I don't want that. And Rick and Morty does such a good job of making it like high concept episodes that are one off, and you can watch it and be like, oh, that was kind of a funny idea, and they played it out to its logical conclusion, but it ultimately doesn't matter because it's so plot driven. I've been watching the new season of Rick and Morty, and what I've been noticing is there's so much action in it. There's a lot of action sequences, and it's very Family Guy-esque in that way, where it'll digress into this whole like fight, like with a chicken fight, and they do that in Rick and Morty now, and it's almost like, oh, it's so weird that like Family Guy's now trying to be Rick and Morty with their spinoff, and then like Rick and Morty can't escape that it is just going to become Family Guy if they keep going, because that's a sci-fi sketch show. It just is like when you do sci-fi sketches, your concept has to be like about science or an idea.
Right, you have to blow like a movie idea every week. But I think the difference is that Rick and Morty clearly has affection for science fiction. You know, they're making fun of the tropes and they're being logical and comedic about it by playing it out. But Family Guy doesn't give a fuck about anything. And so when they try to do stuff, you're like, you don't care. Yeah. I think the best episodes of Family Guy are when it's something that actually gets in their craw. Like the FCC episode. This is clearly something that they cared about, and so they had something to say. But when they don't have something to say, which for an entire show, I don't know how you're going to sustain that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think the quality of creativity of the writers for a Family Guy product is going to be the same for Rick and Morty. I just don't think that.
I think Dan Harmon has an earnestness to him that Seth might not have. That, like, even in shows like The Orville that I watched, there is a attempt to hit an earnestness that is hollowed by detached irony. That, like, Dan Harmon, who's probably the same age or similar age as Seth, like Dan Harmon like you watch Community is very funny and great, but it also has a little heart to it. It does, like,
and it's very similar. I've seen criticisms of Community similar to Family Guy in that it's like, oh, it's just based on references and it's meta and blah blah blah. But I think the difference is that Community is ultimately about people who like each other, and it's not the thing that I feel like people always got confused was, they were like, well, Community is meta, it's wink wink, it tells you that it's a show. And I always felt like it wasn't like that, because it had a character who was referencing TV shows, but in my mind, what that is it's just a reflection of who we are now as a culture. Is like, yeah, we just reference television, and we think about the structure, we think about our lives as if it's a story. That's not meta. That's not saying that this is a show. That's like that's just a relatable character to a lot of people. Whereas Family Guy, they know it's a show, but they also don't give a fuck about anything. They don't like each other. They don't like anything. They hate that it's hell. They hate that they're still around. They can't die. They're trying to do everything they can to die, and they can't.
I know. Because they can't be bad. They have to do their best, but they don't want to. They don't want to, in a way. I hate to keep talking about Rick and Morty, but so much of the Rick and Morty there is just an inherent comparison between Dan Harmon and Seth MacFarlane in a way as guys who 100%. Make a cartoon, and I just find that like a central plot that was so part of like the first 5 seasons of Rick and Morty is like Rick's indifference to everything, and then they did like this big pivot now where like they had to prove that Rick loves his family. And when they proved that, the episodes are so much better because it's not like Rick will let them die. You know he cares, and it's like something will happen where he's too drunk, and that's where the peril comes from. But he's never putting his family in true peril because he does love them. And Peter will push Meg down the stairs. Like he doesn't have Rick won't shoot Morty. He unless it's part of something. Peter would shoot Meg with a gun. He's done it.
They literally done that. Well, right. Well, that's the thing too, is that they are Rick and Morty is at least grounded in what is it, like. Not only do they play the sci-fi conventions out to their logical conclusion, they play the emotional callousness of this type of guy to its logical conclusion. Like the Pickle Rick episode, which became a huge meme. People forget that the point of that episode is it's family therapy. And it's a therapist saying, you are all deeply traumatized by this man's actions. They're playing that emotions out. It's like they're saying, this is what happens. They're not actually going to ever like reconcile and come to terms with what Peter has done, because that would require them thinking about Peter as anything else but a hero. Whereas Rick and Morty's willing to say that no, this guy's fucked up and he's like not a good dude, you know?
Oh yeah.
He's like a bad guy.
Yeah. And so what the new seasons of Rick and Morty, like the newest season, the whole season, Rick can't cope with the fact that he's chosen his family. He's an alcohol. He drinks in every episode more than he's ever drank before. He does these weird things just trying to invent a spark in his life because he's given up on not caring and has decided to care. And the beauty of Rick and Morty, is that you see it evolve in this way where you're like, wow, they're like really like exploring this to its logical conclusion, which is something Family Guy can't do. So stop setting things up that make you have to do that. Just do sketches about stuff. Do the LA Noir, the Noir episode. Just do that. It's fine. Just keep doing that. Don't do something that's like...
And there's literally a template for what this exact thing where Archer, a show that was already kind of concept because it's about spies, but they recognized like, oh, well, we can put these characters into anything, and they got bored with the spy conceit. So for 4 years, they just had a different theme every season. They were sci-fi, then they were literally noir. They did like a dirty thing. Then they were like an adventure island type beat. This is the exact same. We have this exact template of a show's writers being smart enough to realize we've taken this plot line, this theme as far as we can, but we like our characters and we can still write jokes. So let's just do something else. You could do that. Family Guy could do that, but they are just too proud and contemptuous of the world and insecure to ever do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
something that I think SNL did a good job with, that they've become less contemptuous in a way, and now the episodes are great. I see sketches from SNL, I go, this is the best they've been. This is better than some of the shit like Will Ferrell was in. This is great, you know? They like grew. Anyway. I don't have any episode pitches this week because I was depressed by some of these episodes. Do you?
No, I thought you were gonna. This is like, yours are like really good. Mine, I was like trying to draw blood from a stone. I was like, I don't know how these. I empathize with the writers' room.
Yeah, they've done everything.
They've done everything. But you know, if they said next season of Family Guy, it's the last. I think they've been renewed for fucking 4 more. So, you know, who cares? But if they said that, I think if The Simpsons said next season is its last, even though everyone's been wanting it to end, there would be an outcry. If Family Guy said next season will be its last, they would get people to watch it. Be like, oh, interesting. You know?
Yeah.
I want to see what they do. But we should clip this and go onto their chat BCC for their Sunday streams, and then just send this clip into them and get Alex Sulkin on this episode. I do think if we put in the time to like comment and befriend them, he would come on. But I also know that, I don't know, I kind of just have better things to do with my Sunday. Maybe that's anti-success of me, and I'm shooting myself in the foot. But
yeah, dude, you're ruining our potential to be the final new writers of the final season.
The final new writers of Family. Man, God. I would be lying if I didn't say I had that as a dream. If
Oh,
Alex,
of course. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't think that was some
no.
shot.
If they came to us and they were like, "We want you to run the last season of Family Guy," I'm giving up on everything else. I'm doing that. That's my legacy.
Of course.
Fine with that. I kind of don't even want you to include this part in the thing, just so that we can have this to ourselves, our own little internal dream.
Sure, we can keep it. I won't keep this in, but I do think it's so funny to think about it as the way that I mean, stranger things have happened, dude. You have no idea how things have gone.
I feel the same way about, like, I think I've said this before, but the same way that I think like a 60-year-old feels about the government or politics, or they're like, it's never been good, but if I was in charge of it, I could fix it. That's me about Family Guy.
Of course.
I'm like, actually, it's never been good, but I could fix it.
That's why you'd be a great writer for Family Guy, because you don't actually want to change the world. You just want to, like, be a part of your show, that you, and you're like, the show will change the world when I get to do it, but there's no real, like, it's not going to change.
No.
Yeah.
No. I don't. Yeah, you don't have to. You can't have grandiose expectations with something like that.
Dude, one day, we'll get on that Stewie show. We'll be on it, dude.
Oh yeah, the Stewie show. Well, now they're doing. Did you watch the Big Bang Theory spinoff where it's the same thing as it's him just Stuart going through different timelines or something?
I'm not watching that shit, bro. I'm done. I watch. You know how there's literally 3 spinoffs of Big Bang Theory now. There's Young Sheldon.
There's
Georgie and Mary's first marriage.
Stuart saves the universe.
Destroys the universe or saves
Destroys
the
the universe. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching our Family Guy podcast.
Thanks.
Next week, all the vampire episodes.
Okay. What's vampire? All the Halloween episodes with the famously.
Yeah, like we watch all the Haunted Treehouse, and we watch all the Family Guy ones, and
all of them. Yeah. And we forget which is which the week back.
But it's just us sleeping on the episode.